Welcome to the Undrafted Uncensored cast of Pod. Hosted by Nick Archuleta. Mosted by Colin Zanger. And last but certainly is least, Joseph Goodwin.
Welcome in everyone to the Undrafted Uncensored, a part of the E5280 Sports Network, where I'm really starting to wonder about Kadarius Toney's perception of depth, because that's not that hard to see there, guy.
I'm sure he can tell that his spot on the depth chart is getting lower and lower.
I sent you guys. I sent you that meme about Kadarius Toney in front of me in the car, all the way in the middle of the intersection.
It's been a very good day for Kadarius Toney jokes, that's for sure. I think it makes it even better too that it was like just one of those razzle dazzle plays that he just ended up blowing up because he decided to line up with the defense.
Well, yeah, and he's the one that's scoring the touchdown on that play. You know, he ends up going into the end zone, and he's the cause of it all not being, a play at all. He's the reason why it'll never count. And to think that happened on the same weekend as Frank Wycheck and the Music City Miracle, as he passed away.
Yeah,
to have that happen. And for that one to actually be an onside, not a backwards pass. I mean, there was less controversy about the Music City Miracle than Kadarius Toney being offsides. And there was plenty talked about the Music City Miracle when that pass happened, whether it was forwards or backwards. But there is no doubt in my mind that Kadarius Toney, or anyone's mind, that he was offsides, and he was as it wasn't Tony Brothers is the NBA. What's his name? Oh my goodness! I just had the name in my head. The referee. He said he was egregiously offsides. I'll get the ref in that game.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Was
it Cleet Blakeman? He's one of my favorites. Nope. Was it Sean Hockley? Because Ed Hockley's retired.
It starts with like a C.
Who was the black dude with the southern accent? I felt like he was one of the best and fairest refs in the NFL. I think he retired recently too.
Yeah, Carl Sheffers.
Thank you.
Yeah. I knew it was a C. I was like, I couldn't remember, but yeah, Carl Sheffers. When he wrote his, he wrote a thing about it. He said, it's not our responsibility to tell you that you're offsides, especially when you're so egregiously offsides that we can't even see the football.
Yeah. I heard that too. Yeah, he couldn't even see the football.
And we've all played football. I mean, I played tight end for a little bit, and one of the first things I was told and taught was check with the official before you set your feet.
Yes.
So that
the official has to tell you if you check with him.
And you were not. Yeah, and you were either not or you were covering the tackle, depending on what you were supposed to do when you were spread out like that.
Yeah, exactly. I remember I was the receiver that did not have to be on the line. And
had a problem with it?
Oh, are you? I think you're cutting out, Nick.
Yeah, Nick, you're cutting.
Yeah.
You're cutting out, Joe.
No, you're definitely cutting out. You're trying to respond, and you're still going because you can't hear me. But, yeah, no, I was the receiver that lined up off the line of scrimmage. And they didn't tell me that I had to check with the ref and all that when I moved over for the purple and white game, where one side is wears one color and one side wears the other. We had to steal our logos from Kansas State, so we were the Arvada West Wildcats with the exact same logo as Kansas State with the purple and white. And I got 2 offsides penalties in a row in that game because all of a sudden now I'm playing X receiver and I have to be on the line. I don't really know how to do that. They didn't go over that for the quick practices we had before that game. And the ref was like, I'll tell you, don't worry. You just got to ask. I was like, oh, cool. Thanks. This is
you didn't ask.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, and I can't remember exactly what I was listening to, but I was listening to a show that said how can you make that call and ruin that play? I'm like, or how could you make that a penalty, like when it really doesn't affect the game or anything like that? I'm like, there is a way that a penalty is a penalty. It's a penalty. And that's in the books, but also how can you line up so badly offsides like that it is obvious to everybody that you're that far off? There's no way that what Mahomes said afterwards, there's no way that you can stand behind that, because what Kadarius Toney did was just so bad in the whole scheme of things that it doesn't matter how dumb and how little effect where he lined up it was, and how little effect it had. Well, how little of an effect would it have had for him to line up half a yard back and be on sides?
Yeah.
Like how much of an effect would that have had on the play if he had actually lined up correctly? I mean, I know we talk about non-calls during the last 2 minutes and during Hail Marys and things like that, but that also doesn't mean that you can just get away with it. I mean, the Chiefs in the first game of the season, we all saw their right tackle getting like a 1 second head start every single time on every single snap on his kick out. And so when these things happen, I don't know what Mahomes is complaining about besides being angry that he lost to Josh Allen and he wasn't able to engineer a game-winning drive to win the game. But to say that takes away from a Hall of Fame career in Travis Kelce, and that it's unbelievable that they call that. It's unbelievable that your wide receiver and the fact that it's Kadarius Toney can't line up on sides for the possible game-winning play.
And he's such a fast dude. Like, give Kadarius Toney an extra step on you every play and see how many more catches and yards and touchdowns and everything he gets, how much more open. One step is all Mahomes needs to fit the ball in just right. So, like, that's a big deal, especially for a receiver like that. If it was one of those big, slow backup tight ends, I'd maybe see the Chiefs point to an extent. But, like, you give that guy that extra little bit of head start, like you said, with the tackle, who's one of the better tackles in the NFL. You give that guy the extra kick out, he's going to win most of the time. You give Kadarius Toney an extra step. In this case, it's like a half a step because it's, only a couple inches, but still makes a difference. That dude's fast enough to make that.
Can you imagine being an NFL official and getting yelled at by a guy that sounds like a Muppet?
What the fuck, man? Yeah.
Yeah, all the bad lip reading ones were great after that.
I haven't seen those. That sounds
like fantastic.
No, they're amazing. All right, before we go any further and before I have to restart my laptop, Broncos are still alive?
Technically, yes.
They're more than alive. Oh my goodness! I mean, that not only did that KC loss really mean the Broncos have an opportunity to control their own destiny, but besides this Detroit game, now that the Chargers have no quarterback, I mean, they have Easton Stick, they have a hockey baseball stick. The Lions are playing at home. I think the Lions, I know we'll dive more into this future game, but the Lions are tough at home. They suck on the road, even though they lost just to Chicago the other day. The Lions at home are a different animal. I mean,
no pun intended.
Yeah, and so the Broncos really do have an opportunity to play themselves even into division, like winning the division, because it's between the Chiefs and the Broncos. Make no mistake about it. I don't know if the Raiders are going to score more points than Broncos wins for the rest of the season right now.
Oh man, the Raiders, they're still a team. Those poor there he goes.
Yeah. He's restarting. That's all right.
He'll get it there,
We got it, Joe.
We got this. What could possibly go wrong, Colin?
Nothing.
But no, the Broncos are very much alive. That game, I mean, obviously it's the Chargers. They're not putting forth their best effort right now, I feel like, even with Justin Herbert and all their best players healthy, which, Mike Williams, Josh Palmer, big piece of that offense. And a lot of their guys, too, just haven't shown up this year. Gerald Everett, really fell off a cliff this season, when last season he played a lot better.
Yeah.
I know because he was one of my fantasy tight ends last year. But yeah, I just didn't feel like they had that oomph. Like they had that the juice that Vic Fangio used to say, or whatever. Like they didn't have it. As soon as Herbert goes down and it's Easton stick, it's over. The Chargers charged themselves with that right there. And you can't even call that chargering. That's just, the best player on your team gets hurt. We saw it with the Colts and Peyton Manning, and Curtis Painter could not make that team go.
Well, it was Curtis Painter, Dan Orlovsky. It was a comedy of errors there. I mean, that was the step outside the back of the end zone.
Yep. Remember who was the starter that year?
Or wasn't Orlovsky was there too?
Kerry Collins.
That's right. Kerry Collins was. That's right. He came back. He came back. He was not on a team, and he came back like halfway through the season or something, or
to start the season.
Was he there to start?
Because he played with the Titans the year before, and he had gotten them to the playoffs with CJ2K and Lendale White. That was that like ridiculous defense, really good Titans team. But he was, I think he took over for Vince Young or something. So they still had Vince Young. It was just Collins was that quarterback. And then Manning goes down and it's like, oh shit, we can bring in Kerry Collins to start the season. Everything should be fine. And then like after 2 games, you could tell Collins was not ready to do anything close to what Manning did with that team. Like he needed that Titans defense. And then after like 2 or 3 games, they realized that it wasn't going to work out, but Kerry Collins was good enough to get like a couple wins, and they wanted Andrew Luck. So they got rid of Collins and went with Orlovsky and Curtis Painter.
Yeah, I thought he was gone for part of the season. I couldn't remember how he was there, but I remember you're right, him being there.
Oh, yeah, he was basically done in the NFL because the Titans had let him go after going to the playoffs because he was just so old and battered. And they're like, we're going to stick with Vince Young.
Well, the Heisman
was smarter for them.
You should have gone with him.
I
mean, Madden cover athlete,
Absolutely. Everyone's favorite Madden cover athlete. It's him or Peyton Hillis.
You mentioned Vic Fangio earlier, Joe, and the difference between Vic Fangio and, those guys playing with juice and then this Chargers team is that they're done playing for Brandon Staley.
Yeah.
They're absolutely over it. One thing that we saw in this game with the Chargers is that Austin Eckler, he hasn't been given the correct opportunity this season. No. I think he's been hamstrung by his coach and possibly even by Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator.
What was his injury? Was it a hamstring? That'd be funny.
Well, the problem
he was hamstrung by his hamstring.
Yeah. Oh, hamstrung. I see what you did there. Hamstrung by his hamstring. But the problem that as we welcome Nick back in, hopefully for the final time he'll have to take off and be back. But the one difference is that like in the end of that game, you started to see Austin Eckler actually getting in a rhythm, and the Chargers offense hasn't really let Austin Eckler do that, which is one of the reasons why he's had such a bad year. Because you look at how he ran his offense in Dallas, and it was the 2 running backs, it was Zeke, it was Pollard, it was a lot of passing, and you thought that he was going to use Eckler as a weapon in that because Zeke and Pollard are decent receiving options out of the backfield, but Eckler is dynamic. And I do believe he has lost a step, but I also don't believe he has lost that much. But when you get older, it takes a little while for you to get going. I mean, as I sit here with my bum ankle,
I meant to mention that.
My bum ankle sitting here being old, it takes a while for it to warm up, and it's still sore because it's screwed up. It's screwed up right now. But as it warms up a little bit, it feels a little bit better, and then it starts to hurt. But when you're Austin Eckler in a game, it takes a while for you to get warmed up and get going and get playing. And they just haven't given him those opportunities. And I don't blame them for saying they're not seeing the same Austin Eckler, because no, they're not seeing the same Austin Eckler that you saw in all these other years. But you also have to understand your players and understand their strengths. Mm-hmm. And so I was very surprised that Keenan Allen did not get crushed with targets. Like you said, I think it was just really a bad game plan. And to go back to the original point, Staley's out. Those guys are not playing for him, and guys were still playing for Fangio when Fangio was here. That's the difference.
That's true. Yeah, Brandon Staley feels like Nathaniel Hackett from last year, where
someone just
need
flush your house.
Yeah, there's a jet flying overhead. No, that's my roommate. Whenever he takes a shower, the tub runs for a little bit and it makes that sound. It's great when I'm watching a video. Although if I'm watching porn, I can just crank that shit up when he does that. So that works out. But it feels like the Chargers are actually not doing the smart thing the Broncos did last year, which was get rid of that coach, because you will help your draft stock by keeping that moron there, but you're hurting every player that's there by you're hurting your own credibility too by not getting rid of the guy that needs to be gone, by not trying to change something, by not at least trying to move forward with your team. Keeping Staley around, it will end up helping their draft capital moving forward, but they're going to have a lot of angry players out there. It's not going to be like we were talking about while Nick was gone, the Colts using Orlovsky and Curtis Painter over Kerry Collins when Peyton Manning was out. They really need to just rip the Band-Aid off, and even if they don't win another game, that team will be in a much better position because they have a lot of their future guys on the roster. Obviously, Herbert is their guy at quarterback. Eckler will be there next year at running back. They'll probably need somebody to spell him, probably like a more bruisery kind of running back style. Maybe Josh Kelly just does that because he's already on the roster, and that's what he does, but I don't know if he's that good. Quentin Johnston, young, talented receiver, and then obviously they'll get Palmer and Mike Williams back next year. They really need some continuity. They need something to be able to hang their hat on for next year. And right now, it's just looking like it's going to be the talent of that team is what's going to hopefully attract a coach there, and they'll just try to turn it all around next year. But you can figure some shit out this year and kind of not hamstring your team. I also Googled it. It was an ankle injury by Eckler. It wasn't a hamstring.
Me and Eckler with the ankles.
Yeah, it's, so we're just going to make fun of you when you come out looking, not very good. Well, I think Collins lost a step. He's getting older.
Yep. All did it. Well, just so you know, Eckler is only on the books for this season. His revised contract was just for this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So this was the last year of his deal, and that was kind of part of the holdout. And so his revised deal for this year, it added incentives up to $1 million for yards, total yards, and total touchdowns. And 150,000 for a Pro Bowl berth. So, he's in his last year of his deal. So I don't know how many. There are definitely pieces that are still there. I almost
Santiago
in the Chargers organization, but I also think they're just letting Staley run the ship out, and then Kellen Moore will take over the reins next year. And
I don't know, that offense has not looked great under Kellen Moore. They might just
but that's also Staley going for it on fourth down.
That's true, but Moore's still calling the plays. You're right. It's not been, they have not worked in concert together at all. But even despite that, just trying to isolate some stuff, there hasn't been a lot of great stuff from Kellen Moore either. It's also a first year there, so he could figure it out. I'd be more inclined to believe they're going to still bring in a head coach, but maybe retain Kellen Moore if that coach likes him, because Moore was always a highly touted guy like that. But it would have to be another defensive coach that wants an offensive coordinator like that in order to kind of do that. I don't know but then again, the Chargers might be that team that says, fuck it, we're going to give Kellen Moore that shot that nobody else wanted to do. And then we'll see if they're right or if everybody else was right to not give him a job.
Well, yeah, but this is my question. The head coaching list, he was on the head coaching list for multiple people. as a potential head coach. So why would Staley really give him any power? I think Staley has we're going to use the hamstrung. I think he has hamstrung Kellen Moore and his abilities to run this offense because of his decision making. These are not Kellen Moore's decisions, obviously, because these are the same decisions that have been made in Los Angeles for the Chargers for multiple years that have really screwed this team over. So this isn't him running the offense. This isn't his fault. Yeah, he's the offensive coordinator, but I still think Staley has way more in play, and he hasn't given Kellen the opportunity to really run this thing how he would envision it.
No, that's true for sure. But he still had
like who's going to let your replacement? Who wants to let their replacement shine?
Yeah, but Staley needed to let him shine to keep his job. But yeah, like I feel like too, the offense looked better last year before Kellen Moore got there. And they still had Brandon Staley going for it constantly. They did have more healthy players. Like Mike Williams was dealing with injuries, but he wasn't just done last year, I don't think. Yeah. Maybe he was.
No, he was there.
But they had better players for sure. But it just felt like the offense took a massive step back. And nothing changed too much from Staley's end. It really felt like Kellen Moore didn't. And like you say, that could just be because the situation he's in, Staley not allowing him. But again, he's calling the plays. And they're not very good plays. There's not a lot of runs to help really spell Herbert and be able to be more consistent. And yeah, Eckler's had a terrible yards per carry on a lot of carries too, so they've kind of had to move away from that. But I don't know.
The Chargers have been on a decline for the last 3 seasons anyway. As much as we make fun of them, the Chargers are going to Charger. It's been a decline that I don't know if you can throw all this on Kellen Moore, because it's been a decline. I mean, the Chargers have proven they can't get very far without getting in their own way anyway. That Eckler holding out didn't help them out either.
No, definitely not. I don't put it all on Kellen Moore. I don't know if he's improved it that much. If I'm the Chargers, I'm going full scorched earth. I'm fucking getting rid of everything and just starting over and finding something. And I'll still look at Kellen Moore as I would anybody else, but I don't know, man. It hasn't looked that much. It hasn't looked better with Kellen Moore at the OC, unless Staley was doing stuff like Colin said to make it worse, which I could totally see. He's psycho, and he's also not smart. Like Nick Sirianni is a psycho, but he's smart. Sorry, what?
He also knows he's not going to get fired in season.
Yeah, so he doesn't give a fuck.
That Chargers ownership will not fire a coach in season at all, and so they're gonna bite the bullet and hang on to him until the very last second.
Oh man, that's not gonna go well.
No, and that's that's kind of where I'm coming from, because with Staley, I mean, we saw how headstrong he is when he was asked about calling the defense and things like that. He's like, I'm going to continue to do all of this. That's where I get my vibes, that he has not let Kellen Moore do what he wants to do. I think, Kellen Moore is calling the plays, but I also think Staley is dictating to him how he wants to play it. Mm-hmm. And that's why we haven't seen much change or much difference, because in Dallas, McCarthy actually let Kellen Moore do these things. And we've seen a change in the Dallas offense this year.
Yeah.
So, what I'm going to is that you noticed a difference in Dallas with Kellen Moore there and Kellen Moore gone, but you haven't seen a change in the Chargers defense with Kellen Moore and Kellen Moore there this year and their previous offensive coordinator. So who's the constant in that? And that's Brandon Staley.
Yeah.
But I was like, sorry, I wanted to go off on the Chargers because I knew Nick wanted to talk about the Broncos' victory and how they got it. So now we can actually talk about the team that we care about since he's back.
Oh man, it was a good feeling to watch that game.
Yes.
It was they maintained their foot on the gas. They did give up the one touchdown that got me a little concerned for just a brief minute, but Russ did what he needed to do. Jerry Jeudy has no idea where which part of the end zone he's supposed to stay in. Apparently the white line that's about, I don't know, yay thick is not enough of a notice for him. And I mean, if you're going to throw a hissy fit and complain that you're not getting targets, you should probably get 2 feet in.
I think it was the ref's fault. How can you take away a great play like that just because of a guy's foot? I think that's ridiculous and unprofessional of the referees. Let the guys play. But like, yeah, his shoe's white. The line's white. How is he supposed to tell?
How did they see that anyway? Damn it!
Yeah, no, that was. Yeah, that's just classic Judy. At this point, Judy's going Judy.
I mean, he's starting to play himself out of Denver. And I mean, if you want out, don't worry. The front office will oblige.
Yeah. I was talking with Dover and Stoke yesterday when I was at my meeting with our new manager lady. And it was like, do you think you can even
name drop
move up? Yeah, right. Do you think you can even actually get Jerry Jeudy, get another team to accept Jerry Jeudy to move up? Like, at first they were saying, like, is Jeudy worth a first or second round pick anyway? And then they're like, could you even offer Jeudy and your first round pick to move up to get whatever quarterback you like? And I think you can do that.
Depends on who it is.
Yeah. Because it's a pick and a player, and the player is going to be on his last year's deal, so they can decide to keep him or not, keep him as a rental. I think, but that's the limit for Jerry Jeudy's trade value right now, is you're using him to turn your first into a better first. You're not getting more draft capital for Jeudy. But hey, at the end of the day, if they get somebody to accept that, they move up, get a quarterback, get that money off the books, get more playing time for young receivers. Maybe we'll see little Jordan Humphrey again next year. I kind of doubt it. But it's been a fun story, but yeah, man, he just, every week he looks worse and worse.
I'm trying to find there it is. The targets. Jerry Jeudy has been targeted 63 times this season with 42 receptions.
Ooh, that's bad.
You talk about the 42 receptions, 63 targets. Was there an injury? Because he only has 8 games out of 12 started, which I know can be a weird.
I feel like for a couple weeks he might have been out. Like,
I don't remember injury though. It must have just been personnel. Like, they had Sutton, because Sutton's clearly the number one. Yeah. So it must have been like multiple tight ends and a fullback maybe. And,
but yeah, I mean,
make it out. That's weird.
I mean, as a number 2, so when I look at his targets on the season, like, he's got the same amount of targets as Deebo Samuel. Obviously has not done the same amount of things as Deebo has with those amount of targets, and Deebo's missed games.
Yeah, and Deebo has had injuries, yeah.
Oh, Jerry Jeudy did miss the first game of the season. That's right.
The hamstring.
Okay. I do remember that.
I mean,
when he got
some names that are out there. Michael Thomas, who's now on IR, he's got less targets than Michael Thomas in New Orleans. Deontay Johnson, who missed 4 games, he's got less targets. Cooper Kupp has more targets, but only by 6. The guys that are behind him, like, it's not a great area to be in for Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah.
He's kind of putting himself in that predicament now.
No, it's true.
And I mean, if you're not going to make catches on the sideline, and if you're not going to make catches in the back of an end zone, but you're going to throw a hissy fit when Russ goes to the one receiver he knows will catch the football one-handed while being interfered with, I don't know what to tell you, bub.
Well, and it's funny, like, Jeudy has only missed that 1 game, and I mean, his lowest targets in a game was been 3, and he's had that twice. But every other week, it's basically 5 targets. And when you're getting 5 targets and you're dropping 3 of them or 2 of them, you're not building up faith in your quarterback. Then 2 years ago, I talked about, get rid of Jeudy, especially after his comments of I was just running cardio and having his cardio day. I didn't like it, and I didn't like what was going on there. And now you're right, Joe. There's no value there.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a 7th rounder, which I'll take for Judy right now, because it's that frustrating thing of he has the talent, but he does nothing with it.
I think he's more than a 7th, but not like if you're getting just a draft pick, you would be floored to get a 3. I think you're looking at that 4 to 5 kind of range. A 7 would feel like too little. I'd rather just keep him for one more year at that point.
At this point, he's going to turn to a cancer.
Yeah. And then you can just release him and not worry about it because it's 1 year. You're not tied to it. Who cares?
Well, no, but you are, because you got to
pay him.
You got to pay him.
Well, it's his rookie contract. He's already been paid that. So if he's bad, next year he has a cancer, he's no more years on the contract, no more nothing. You bite that, which you already kind of bit. Just let him go.
Well, the problem going in though is that it's his rookie contract, but it's also the 5th-year option deal. So if you don't give him the 5th-year option, he's not going to be happy anyways, and it's become even worse in the locker room because he's going to be angry about not getting paid that top money when he hasn't been a top wide receiver and they haven't offered it to him. For some guys, that's motivating to him. But for a guy like Jerry Jeudy, I don't see that being a motivating factor. I see that being a factor where he just pouts around and Mahomes is it as much as he can after a game and just complains and bitches and moans. Like, I don't see Jerry Jeudy, if he doesn't get a contract extension or the rookie franchise 5th-year extension tag, whatever exactly it's called.
Yeah.
I don't see him being happy at all, no matter what. So
they already picked up his option though.
So you do have to send him. They send the
No, this is his 4th year.
Yeah, they've picked up his 5th-year option. I'm looking at it right now because I was pretty sure they already did it. Yeah, they already picked it up, so they're on the books for it. So at that point, whatever. You don't have to pay him any more years after that. It's only his 5th year. Next year is that 5th year. So if he ends up still being that much of a problem, you just cut him. You lose that money for that year, but you're probably going to lose that anyway. If you can trade him, sure. I guess a 7th.
Somebody's going to pick him up.
But I don't think a 7th is that, like, it depends on the team too, like you say. But
he's an Alabama kid. Somebody will think they can fix him. He's a reclamation project.
Yeah.
Give me a 5th rounder for Jerry Jeudy.
Some talented team. Send him to the Dolphins. They love giving the Broncos too much draft capital for players.
But yeah, he's getting $12 million, almost 13, just under $13 million next year. That's unreal. Like, there's no way. That's $10 million more than what he's getting for what he's doing right now. Do you really think that he's going to take the next step next year?
No.
And then, but does another team want to pay that? Like, are you going to get a 4th rounder for a team that's going to have to pay $12 million for Jerry Jeudy? And that's why
I think it's closer to 5th. Is kind of your like sweet spot for Jeudy. You can get a 3 or 4, hell yeah. But I think a 7, you just say fuck it. We can get some touchdowns. We can get something. He's gone next year anywhere.
Adam Troutman has about as many touchdowns as Jerry Jeudy does this year, and he was traded for a 7th rounder.
That's true. But that's a guy who's like a perennial backup, and has never really been a guy. Judy's been a starter. That's a guy you can get more trade value from. It's not even close to what we thought it would be. We were hoping to get a 1st. At the trade deadline this year, we were hoping to get like a 3 or a 4. The talk was that it was a 3 and a 5, I think, and they turned it down, which I wouldn't have turned down. I would have taken that in a fucking heartbeat. So I feel like that whole
5-game winning streak too, though.
That's true, but he didn't contribute a ton to that. That 5-game winning streak, I feel like, happens with or without Jerry Jeudy.
See, I mean, I don't know. You say Judy's been a starter. Judy's been a starter because of injury, and I'm not saying that their talent levels are the same, but Troutman was a starter because of injury. I'm not sure Jerry Jeudy is a starter in this league.
Oh, no, it doesn't matter about the talent, though. It just matters what somebody else will give you for him. He's been a starter. He's caught touchdowns. He was the best receiver on this team last year.
He was the only receiver on this team.
That's true, yeah. But
you have to have a best receiver, no matter how bad they are.
Doesn't matter. The number one receiver for any team has value, period. So somebody will be able to convince themselves that they'll, get something. A 7th round pick feels like you're just kind of giving him away, which is like maybe fine if that's what it has to be. But I'd rather get something for the guy that you wasted a 1st round pick on, because obviously it's not going to work out with him as a player here. But because I don't picture him having a Garrett Bowles-esque resurgence after and Bowles didn't even get his 5th year option. That would have been nice if we had him for that extra year. But at the time, he was terrible. So maybe him not getting that 5th year option was what Bowles needed to kind of kick him in the ass. And Judy didn't even get that. He got the 5th year option. He's getting no kicks in the ass. So I don't know. I'd be trying to move him to anybody. Kansas City doesn't have any receivers.
Well, I was just going to say, you said a number one receiver is everything. Like, what do the number one receivers in Kansas City get you? What do the number one wide receivers in New York get you for the Giants?
The number one receivers in Kansas City got the Miami Dolphins to a better record.
Like that's what I'm saying. Like, just because you're the number one receiver on a really crappy offense like the Broncos were last year, like, doesn't mean that you carry value. Like, the Kansas City offense right now, their number one receiver is obviously Travis Kelce, but he's not at the wide receiver position. But you go to New York and the Giants, and I know they won that game, but tell me their wide receivers. I mean, I could name some off because of fantasy, but they're not like
Kadarius Toney that they traded to the Chiefs, who's their number one receiver and not playing very well, but a team convinced themselves that they wanted him and they gave them more than a 7th round pick for Kadarius Toney. That's the point. Jerry Jeudy is Kadarius Toney.
So how can you guys make this argument when I'm talking about trades earlier? Like, it takes one team. Like, you guys are so back and forth because I'm talking about trading Justin Simmons for a 1st rounder, and now you're like, it only takes one team. You guys can make this point right now, but you guys can't say that my point of Jamal Adams actually having gotten traded for a 1st rounder, it only takes one team.
Yeah,
I don't understand.
I was saying the problem is at that point in the season, there were possibilities that we were overvaluing the players that we had. I understand what you're saying. And yes, we were saying it takes one team. However, we're also basing this on a value of the 3 talking heads that are in this box right now and not the actual people making the decisions.
Yeah, and also, it's a safety. No one's going to give you a 1st round pick for a safety.
Yes,
when
they
you're
are.
Not doing well. No.
When you're top safety, the New York Jets were not playing that well when they got that deal for Jamal Adams.
True, but Jamal Adams was playing better than Justin Simmons was. Jamal Adams was knocking heads. Jamal Adams was an insanely talented
Justin Simmons has led the league for safeties and interceptions and has had 4 every year, multiple years.
Which is cool, but the Jets were also a good team. They had, they had Ryan Fitzpatrick. They had, they were like one of those teams that was right there on the cusp of going to the playoffs, and they just kept trading away their best players. Quinton Williams, or no, not Quinton Williams. It was the other guy. They drafted Leonard Williams. They drafted so many defensive linemen they traded away for high draft picks. But no, safeties don't garner that much value.
I talked about getting it's funny. You guys have just changed your tune so much on this because I talked about getting a 2nd rounder for Jerry Jeudy in the draft this last year.
Well, that would have been awesome.
Be a possible 1st rounder, and it was like, no, he won't get that. Or don't trade him away. You guys,
we never said don't trade Jeudy. We were all about trade. I was all about.
You said you won't get that.
We probably wouldn't. From Simmons, you're not going to get that. For Jeudy, you.
I even talked about Jeudy earlier this year.
Yeah, trading Jeudy would have been great, but again, his value was about 2nd, maybe 3rd. Probably a 4th.
Well, and I said 2nd, and I know you guys said no. You don't trade him for a 2nd rounder. I was like, well, I mean, it could be a 1st too with what happened. Yes,
I definitely didn't say that because I would have traded Jeudy for a 2nd rounder.
Nick's been awfully quiet because I think he knows I'm right.
Maybe it was Nick.
I've already said it. I know what you're saying. And I agreed with you. I said don't trade him, and I said you're also overvaluing some of these guys because you want to move up in the draft. There's a big difference between.
That was true.
Fire them all and get what you can for them. And in the midst of a 5-game winning streak that we didn't know was happening at the time, this team is starting to turn it around and play like a cohesive unit.
Yeah. No, they are. And it's funny. Now some team could give you this option is all of a sudden back on the table, huh, guys? I love it.
It's always been on the table.
No, it hasn't, because you said no team would ever make that trade. And I give you examples, and now it's like, oh, well, they could give you this. Where it's like, now I don't see any team giving you, especially with the stuff from Steve Smith and his attitude towards him, like that coming out earlier in the year. You've seen the stuff on the sidelines. You've seen all these things happening. And all of these character issues. The what? What about?
I said that earlier in the season too, that Jerry Jeudy continues to hurt his own draft stock. That it didn't, not draft stock, but his own
trade value,
because he keeps doing all these juvenile things. Yeah. And yes, right. Hang on, record this part. We're recording Collins, just for you. You were right. They should have got rid of him earlier.
Yes, thank you.
There you go. But at the same time, you are still trying to have a young enough team that as you draft these new guys, you can't continue to keep around, the old ducks and hope that they fly the way they should.
Yeah.
You got to keep those young guys, and Jerry Jeudy, albeit a pain in the ass, was still a young guy that you could potentially build around, because Tim Patrick gets hurt. We've seen that time and time again. Cortland Sutton may or may not be on the field. Justin Simmons has a tendency to get hurt. It was a matter of who can we at least rely on to stay out on the field. And that was Judy's biggest selling point, was he's able to at least stay on the field for now. He's a head case. And I mean, falling into the realm of Ocho Cinco and AB at this point, like at first it was, you had to keep what you had to keep.
I mean, yeah, and there's two teams that I can think of that would be willing to deal with a head case, because it does become a character issue also, and that's the Cleveland Browns or the Las Vegas Raiders. Yep. Those are the two teams that I think would be willing to take on Jeudy. I just think he has a caution sign sticker stuck all over him, and teams are not going to want to mess around with it.
Yeah, if Davis isn't willing to pick you up, that's a problem.
Yeah. I mean,
Mark Davis is very different than Al. Mark doesn't even seem to know, like, at least Al Davis was consistent with his game plan. His game plan was bad and flawed, and just take the dumbest athletic freaks in every draft. But at least that's something. What the fuck is Mark Davis about? John Gruden?
Vegas.
I don't know, man. Yeah, Vegas, not Oakland. He's about his WNBA team. Knock on wood if you're with me.
It's like I said, I think there's really two teams that I can think of that'd be willing to give up more capital to deal with a guy like Jeudy. And I don't know if he ever gets it turned around. I think it feels like he's one of those guys who just doesn't take responsibility for his own actions. Or like his problems, like he kind of does at times, and then it's like, I'm pouting because of this. Like, oh, I didn't get chances. Why didn't I get these chances? And then when I finally got them, I don't succeed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We've got a year to see what happens with that. It's gonna be a pain in the ass, but again, you know, like you said, he could end up being traded too to help the Broncos with their draft stock, and it kills two birds with one stone. The Broncos move up and they get rid of a head case.
Yeah.
They might only have like the fourth most expensive wide receiver room in the NFL after that trade.
Yeah. If they can move Jeudy for anything, that would be awesome.
Like, legitimately, if the Broncos end up having to hold Jeudy next year, they have the highest paid wide receiver room.
Don't they already have the highest paid wide receiver room?
Well, not technically because of IR with Patrick. At the start of the season, yes.
Okay.
But with Patrick on IR, some of that money is different right now. But yes, they did at the start of the season, and then you have the other contracts that could happen. But you add $10 million for Jerry Jeudy's contract next year. I forgot. I'm glad that you saw that they picked it up. I forgot that they had picked it up.
Yeah.
Like, you picked up the option on this guy. Like, this is the Broncos' own fault. This is their own making for not taking it. I mean, you mentioned the third and the fifth. that could have possibly been there at the trade deadline. And I know the Broncos were in the middle of a run, but really, what had Jerry Jeudy shown you up until that point?
Yeah, no. If they move Jeudy at the deadline, basically the narrative becomes he was a bad egg, just like Randy Gregory and Frank Clark. Like Jeudy didn't contribute. Like I said, Jeudy did not contribute that much to the 5-game win streak. So he absolutely could have been moved for that 3 and 5. But I don't know if I trust that report. That report was weird. The way it came out, Mike Kliss had some different things to say
than Schefter.
regarding that report. So I feel like it wasn't a 3 and a 5. I feel like it was just a 5, and the Broncos wanted the 3 or something along those lines. Or maybe it was just because even just a 3, you take that.
Yeah, I thought they would have taken
just a 3. You take that for Jeudy in a fucking heartbeat. We were all talking about that at the trade deadline. You take whatever you can get for Jeudy, period, because it's more than you had before. So pretty much anything, obviously a 7th rounder, even that would have been something because you were getting absolutely nothing about him before. But now, he's played, he's shown up, he's been part of this winning team. He hasn't been, released and fucked off. That you can get, we didn't think Bradley Chubb was going to be that worth it either. And then all of a sudden, there you go. I feel like the talent is really what kind of shows through, I guess, with those with teams like that. Plenty of teams need wide receiver talent and help. Not all of them are actually contenders right now, so it'll be teams that want next year. Hell, the Chargers might want more depth because all their guys keep getting hurt. It's sad that all the teams in our division are the ones we're talking about: the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Raiders, the Dolphins. Obviously, they don't need another receiver, but you tell Mike McDaniel that he can have an ankle-breaking route runner who's tall, in addition to his little fast guys, he's going to start salivating. He's going to love that, But
that vape in so hard.
Yeah, there's ways you can go about it. I feel like the Broncos just need to understand what they have because I don't know if they've ever really understood what they had.
I think now they do.
The value of guys like that.
I think now they do. It took the season for them to evaluate that talent a little bit more. And Peyton, I think that's why the Peytons didn't make any moves at the trade deadline was they wanted to firmly establish what they had and who they were able to use to their benefit and move for the team's benefit.
Yeah, and even the Dolphins only have, they have Tyreek Hill, but Jalen Waddle has one more year left on his rookie deal.
Wow. So they could afford it. They probably would be better off spending that money elsewhere. But for our sakes, we would love to. But then again, they also don't have the pick higher than the Broncos right now. So that wouldn't be someone the Broncos could move up with anyway. The Broncos are looking at teams. The Falcons don't throw, but if they get rid of Arthur Smith, who I think is a decent coach, but probably more of an OC than an actual head coach.
Yeah.
Because that team – it's fun to see the old school. It's kind of like the old John Gruden Buccaneers after the Super Bowl win when it was just we're still going to pound the rock in 2007. That's not going to work out, guys. But hell yeah,
Mike 80 years old now.
There.
Allstott's 80 years old now. You can't do that anymore.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, Mike Allstott. He's probably still there though.
I love that dude.
He was my favorite. I think the last Madden he was in was 07 or 08. I knew he was going to be gone, so I was like, oh man, every single franchise I'm trading for Mike Allstott. Fullback dive all day.
I do want to say the Broncos hit their magic number of 3 turnovers.
Yep,
they did.
There it was again. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say the Russ interception was not on him. That was a weird interception early in the game.
Yeah.
But once again, the key for this Broncos victory was the Broncos did differently this week from the previous week against Houston. They ran the ball more. Mm-hmm. They didn't leave it up to Russ. And then they took their shots. And unfortunately, the one shot was to Cortland Sutton because he can actually catch the ball. The other shots didn't really work out, but you saw a lot of this Seattle mindset kind of play type of game archetype happened in this game, and the Broncos won. You ran the ball, you took a few shots when you had the opportunity one-on-one, and you just played boring football, but it wins.
It works. It's winning.
I love boring football.
I'll take boring football over what they were doing against Miami. That was just painful. Speaking of boring football, let's dive in real quick to the rest of the NFL. Let's start with.
Oh no, boring football. That's.
Do you like quality sports? Do you want only the best, most interesting, and impactful games? Well, this segment has none of that. Get ready for Joe Goodwin's Lose Bad with Joe Goodwin. Breaking down all of just the worst games every week.
Unfortunately,
Colin Zanker, I hardly know her. And Nick Archa, let a guy get his own segment.
And
like to
unfortunately,
apologize for the following.
Oh man, I forget where that was at. But unfortunately, I did choose the wrong game on this week for Joe to watch. It should have been the Vikings and Raiders game. But Joe, let us know how the Texans versus Jets game went.
We can also pick these afterwards too, and just be like, let's look at the games and see what was the worst. But it's kind of fun to be like, well, let's see what we think is going to be bad. Because we were right for the first half.
Well, once again, this is the game that Joe watches so that nobody else has to.
Yeah.
They're relying on you for the recap, no matter what it is, because some people might have just tuned into Minnesota and Vegas because they wanted to watch that.
I doubt that highly. Once that game started going, nobody wanted to watch that.
See, but once people know that Joe is going to give them the recap, they just don't watch and wait for your recap. That's the point.
Exactly. So if we just do it for the actual worst game, then that's more on brand. This was actually a fun game, sort of, not really.
But you don't know the worst game until afterwards.
That's what I'm saying.
No, what I'm saying is we tell the people which game you're watching that you're giving the recap, so they just don't have to worry about watching it at all beforehand.
It was a fun game they should have watched. They're going to know which ones are bad. Look at the score. It's pretty clear which one you should watch, which one you should.
Oh, Joe, you are so not getting my point.
Yeah, no, I am. Nick. No.
We tell the people the game you're watching so they don't have to, because you don't know that it's going to be a good game until after it's over when you look at the score.
Yes, I get that, Colin. But it doesn't make sense when we pick a game that was good. But whatever, it doesn't matter. The game was pretty bad for most of it. The first half had nothing going on. It was just basically what we expected it to be. And then all of a sudden, Zach Wilson throws a nice little pass to Randall Cobb, of all people. Remember Randall Cobb? He's still there. He got himself a touchdown pass from someone not named Aaron Rodgers. Has he ever done that in his entire career? I don't know. I didn't look it up. But the Jets didn't look that much better. They just looked like what they could have looked this whole time without Zach Wilson just being a fuck. They threw he still had 300 yards, which feels like too much. But that first half was literally no scores at all. The first touchdown didn't come until the third quarter with that sweet Randall Cobb touchdown. And then from there on, it was domination. It was that Jets offense that we've all talked about how great they are all year,
I mean, they got Breece Hall involved, and then the Texans.
He was okay.
CJ Stroud and Nico Collins.
Yeah, Breece Hall, he wasn't as good as Devin Singletary in that game, which is weird. But it still worked out. I pulled it up. He had
as a running back, he wasn't, but overall, Breece Hall had 70 yards receiving, didn't he?
I don't know, maybe. It didn't matter. At that point, the game was just so far gone. It was like, all right, cool. So this is over. Especially once CJ Stroud got hurt, it was like, oh fuck, Houston has no chance.
We have a problem.
This is really sad. Everyone's gone. Tank Dell is gone. Nico Collins got hurt. Who the fuck is Noah Brown? He's the new number one receiver in Houston, or it's everyone's favorite Robert Woods, aka Bobby Trees, my guy. But yeah, this game, it looked good on paper, but it really was not like anything to write home about. It was everyone sucks, and then all of a sudden the Jets got some momentum, and they just couldn't stop. They were just, they're riding the jet stream, as they say. No one says that.
Yeah, Breece Hall had 8 receptions for 86 yards.
Yeah, nobody cares.
And a touchdown.
It's fine.
Me leaving him on my fantasy bench in one league did, but a 30-6 game was not great. Yes, on the ground, he wasn't as good as Singletary, but overall, he had a damn good game.
Yeah, and he's a good player. He'll continue to do that.
8 catches on 9 targets with Devin Singletary, 0 catches on 3 targets. Breece Hall definitely outplayed him.
Yeah, a little bit, maybe. It's arguable, but again, it doesn't matter.
So all 36 points of this game came in the second half after a very boring first half. Much like
like if you had told me at the beginning of the year the Jets would score that many points in a half, well, I guess I would have believed you because I would have thought it was Aaron Rodgers. I feel like there's no way that happens again. But who knows, man? Momentum is a fickle mistress, I guess. It's a weird beast. Whatever, insert cliche here. I don't know. I feel like Rodgers was kind of licking his chops like, man, this is what I could have had the whole year. Like, if this kid could have just fucked up a little bit less, I could be coming into this situation right now as an Achilles-less hero. None of this gets to happen. And it feels very Jets.
It does. It's on par with the brand.
Yep. If it's not the Jets, it's the Mets. So either way.
M-E-T. Wait.
We'll touch on a couple of things real quick. The Strother showed up last night, decided to help carry the Nuggets to a victory. And then tonight, Joker got ejected again.
Boo.
Aaron Gordon is such an asshole for pulling the last rebounder away from Jamal Murray. Because Jamal Murray had a double-double after it looked like he was injured in the first quarter. He ends with like 29 and 9, a pretty good stat line, but that doesn't mean a double-double. Mr. Aaron Gordon, team player coming to the Nuggets. You big jerk. Don't meet me on the streets outside of my old hotel, please, and beat me up. But yeah, I just got to say, I had $10 on it, so it wasn't anything crazy.
Whoa, Colin lost $10 whole?
Yeah, out of his like $480 billion he has in his account right now.
It's not in the billions
yet.
And
then, apparently Arturi Lekkonen's dad wants to create some drama in the locker room.
Fun.
Going and calling out Mikko Rantanen.
That's not smart.
No. I don't know if you guys saw this or not.
No.
Apparently, Lekkonen's dad works for a Finnish broadcasting company, I guess, and was basically saying that Mikko basically disappeared this summer, and that's why he came out so slow and hasn't really produced for the Avalanche a whole lot, and decided to do this all on TV, which obviously would piss off Rantanen. Apparently, Mikko and Arturi are cool. There's nothing between them, according to them. We'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, Mikko said today he's not worried about the comments. And yeah, it's. I think part of that is like Mikko. After that season last year, Mikko carried this team.
Yeah,
and he got away. And so just because Lecky didn't see him doing the things he had done in some past years, I think that was just Mikko resetting for this year and trying something different because of how it didn't, of how it turned out. How it turned out last year. For the past years, it always felt like the Avs were in the race and they had a chance, and injuries derailed a lot of that. But last year, it just felt kind of like a foregone conclusion that they weren't that team. That they were playing well, but they were missing something. And, we all know
We all know
it really was Landeskog.
Yeah.
But I think Mikko just got away, and so Lehkonen just maybe didn't see him as much last year. But his dad, I'm like, okay, where's OBJ and him? Do they share a flat, like, somewhere? I don't know. I just it gave me bad juju, and I'm sure Mikko and him are fine. But you gotta, hopefully this is the last of his dad coming out and saying anything.
Yeah.
Because if he does it again, then it becomes an issue.
Yeah. And not necessarily between Arturi and Mikko, because we all know that guy whose dad's an asshole and won't shut the hell up. You don't blame the kid for it. But yeah, and also like if we're giving out, if teams gave out MVPs for just their team, fucking Mikko Rantanen gets that for the Avalanche last year. He was the best player. I mean, obviously, Cale Makar is the best player on the team, most talented and all that. But Mikko was the guy, like you said, he was the leader last year that really stepped up for Landeskog. And so I feel like to call him at, like, did he not earn an offseason where he can kind of just disappear and recharge and, get his shit together? And is he going to look a little bit slower? Of course. The whole team looks slower. The whole team looks a little bit off kilter. They came out real strong early on, and then it turns out that might have been a little bit of I don't know. It's sad. It's to hear those kind of things because he's such a good player, and the team I think is in a much better place this year, and hopefully they can just move forward and not have to worry about this, and they can just make fun of the whole, my dad could beat up your dad.
Well, and I will say, Joe, as William, we are in Denver, as Nick just sent you a message. We are in Denver, so we talk a lot of Denver sports, but we follow all of it. If you got a question about your team and want us to talk about something, I'm more than happy to talk about it. All right. But Joe, to go back with what you said is like they might not have a problem with him. It could cause really, it really could cause a problem in the locker room for the Avs, though. Because if guys can't trust Lehkonen, like with things that are going on and the inner workings of the locker room, it could blow some things up. It could create drama inside that locker room if they feel like they need to outcast Lehkonen because his dad is going to say some stupid shit on TV.
Yeah.
So that's where it might not be him as the personal problem, but guys are afraid to be around him because of things that could be said and brought out into the public light, which really don't need to be brought out in the public light.
No. Yeah. Well, the good thing too is hockey. It's every sport is good about doing it in their own unique way. I mean, Colin, you and I have been in many a dugout where, outside noise coming from somebody's family within the dugout. We've found ways to make that work without turning them into a leper. Yeah.
And there are plenty of examples of that. And sometimes you put team above it, but it's the thing of being in Denver doesn't mean you have to love Denver. I love Denver, and I've loved all my Denver sports teams. But I do love all the sports too. So what I will say is that it causes you to be a leper if things keep happening and if you keep giving someone information that becomes public. That's when it can happen. And it can happen in any locker room. I just mentioned OBJ earlier. I mean, that's what happened in Cleveland with OBJ and his dad. I mean, part of it was like him saying, oh, you don't throw him the ball. But then him talking about things that happened between him and Baker and their interactions. Like, that there was inside conversations that were probably not meant to be aired out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think of Arturi Lehkonen in the same light that I would Odell Beckham. Like, I feel like that there was a lot of other things going on there too. Him just being an extremely loudmouth guy and not really producing too much for Cleveland also. Baker was a solid quarterback, but it wasn't like he was going to be, lighting the world on fire. And it's just, I don't know, it feels like a different kind of situation. I feel like the Avalanche can overcome a lot of those little issues that, come from that. But you're right. It can make a guy feel ostracized to an extent. But I don't know. It feels like one of those things. It's like it's kind of fun that we get to talk about this right now, but because it's not really that big of a deal. But obviously, if it becomes a big deal, we have to keep talking about it. That sounds bad.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
And William, if you'd like to go listen to the season predictions that I had about the Denver Broncos and Russell Wilson, feel free to tell me I'm a homer after that. You know, I gotta say a lot of that stuff. But the Avs, you're right, Joe. If it, I don't think it will be a problem. I really don't. I don't want it to continue, and that's my fear, is that if his dad goes out and says something else on some Finnish news network, sports network or whatever, and it affects the guys and being around him, because it is a lot about camaraderie, and sometimes you have to put out fires. It's not that everybody's going to like everybody in every locker room.
Did they already do the dad's trip?
The dad's trip? No.
So they haven't done the mom or the dad's trip yet?
I don't remember seeing anything. Like,
that's gonna be an awkward dad's trip.
I hope so. I hope he comes along and they can just, squash the beef, or the, maybe the vegetarian beef. I'm not going to presume, and just get that handled, because I don't think it's that big of a deal. Especially, like, come on, it's not even like ESPN or that big of a deal. Like, it's Finnish.
Yeah, but it's not that big of a deal till it's your name in his mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth.
I saw something the other day that was talking about how, like I sent all you guys the New York Jets or New York Giants beating the Green Bay Packers thing from Coming to America.
Mm-hmm.
It was funny how the movie hit in Hitch, where he got slapped by Doug. All I know him as Doug from King of Queens.
Kevin James.
That's great.
Yeah, that's right, Kevin James. And then he did the same thing to Chris Rock on stage.
Yeah.
It was almost the same identical slap. Like, they had him side by side.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
It was like art imitated reality, just a few years later.
I want to make that a meme of just swap out Chris Rock for Kevin James. Like,
yes.
Roll the Q-tip, throw it away. Do the lawnmower. Do the lawnmower.
Because he stands there and kind of looks at him, and then whop.
That's so good.
Like, there was that moment on stage too where he just kind of got up there, looked, and was like, whoop! Oh wait, what just happened?
Oh, that's beautiful. All right, we're getting towards the end here, so Colin, guess what? It's time for you to jump into the driver's seat, ladies and gentlemen. The victory formation.
This is the victory formation.
All right, boys, here we go. Best play in football. 6 right tight diamond victory on 1. Break.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's jam.
The Pick'em segment, proving that Colin Zanker is the most humble man in the history of time. Least. Featuring Nick Archuleta wishing he was somewhere else. And Joe Goodwin just kind of winging it.
Oh, sweet victory formation. As none of us were very good this last week. I will say one of us went 2-3, and the other two of us went 1-4. Well, I'm sure you guys already know by the look on Nick and Joe's faces who went 1-4 and who went 2-3. Let's kick things off, because we start with our first game that we picked, and that was the Broncos versus Chargers. And this, obviously, Broncos homer who picked the Chargers to win lost. That would be me. While Nick and Joe won that one, we all picked the Eagles to beat the Cowboys. That didn't happen.
Yeah, that one
chose Miami to beat the Titans. That didn't happen.
It didn't happen either, yeah.
But do remember, I do have this. Oh, I had it up. I have it up where I said it was worth placing a bet on the Titans at like plus 600, because you can at least make money, and the Titans play the Dolphins well. I had that at the end of the show while we were talking about it, and they came back and won that game.
Yeah.
So I talked about it even with Drew and and some guys at the station yesterday. I was like, be careful. Don't be so sure the Dolphins are going to win, because the Titans play these games tough, and they have in the past, and they end up coming away with an improbable victory. I mean, I did not expect them to be the first game in 767 games or teams to be down by 2 scores with 3 minutes left, or by 14 and 2 minutes left to win in regulation.
I'll be honest, I thought the Dolphins had that game. I started watching the Avalanche.
I mean, the Avs game was fun. That was a 6-5 game, but that was pretty unbelievable comeback for the Titans that none of us obviously chose in our fake money but real type of bets game. Then the Giants beat the Packers at plus 240. I won that one, netting $34.
Nice.
And I chose the favorite away from home Lakers in Vegas over the Pacers.
Yeah.
That won me $18.56. So both Nick and Joe this week lost $18, only winning $22 on the Broncos bet.
That sounds
And
good. That's
then
more than 18.
losing 40. So minus 18.
14 or 40?
No, you won. So $22 was the win for the Broncos, but you lost $40 on the other bets. So your net was minus $18. You lost $18.
You said 14 the first time, but I was like, wait, what?
Oh, okay.
No, I was like, 22 is better than 14. I'll take that. And then you said 40, and I'm like, that's more.
22 minus 40 is negative 18. So you guys lost $18 this week, and I came out with a profit of $19.56. That sounds like it was
a good year.
I mean, it was a year. I can't say it was a good one, but it was one. Probably. That brings my total up to $943.43. Nick still in second place at $610.12. Joe in third at $439.27. And I can't wait for this weekend's slate of games, because we have Saturday football, we have Sunday football, we have Monday football, and we probably have something else stupid that I'll pick and choose from that'll just throw us all off anyways.
Fun?
No, not you.
But that would be the victory formation for this week, as I jump back in the driver's seat, albeit with a losing overall week. But all that matters is the profited.
Oh, Lord. Well,
I mean, there's more things that matter than that, but it doesn't.
Not in the victory formation. That's it. Nothing else matters.
We got some time to think. I mean, we got the Lions to prepare for on Saturday. School of Mines also plays on Saturday, so double dip of football. Definitely go Mines. Hopefully Miles and Dover will get their rings. We'll whatever other sports news comes out. I mean, maybe we can talk a little baseball, as Ohtani has decided to defer his money until 2034. I mean,
I wanted to get into that, and then also a report just came out a little bit earlier. Belichick is probably done after this year.
Yeah,
shocker.
So that we got a lot of stuff to hit on Saturday for sure.
Yeah, my internet was a little choppy, so I'll take the blame for that.
Yeah, he made me talk about the Chargers for about 20 minutes.
Yeah,
which was fine. I can rip on the Chargers all day.
The internet is your fault, Nick. You affect the internet.
I know. Well, and anytime we do a late night one is usually when we have this problem.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
Well, Colin, you can decide to make your choice. As I say, thanks to Michael Spillin and all the crew over at e5280sports.com for having us on their platform. William down there, thanks for chatting in with us tonight. It's nice to have a little banter back and forth. Do tune in again. We'll be back Friday.
Probably.
I feel like Friday was the day we decided to choose. So,
one of these days.
Just stay with the socials. We always post when we're going on. E5280sports.com will always be there. They also have the Wheelhouse, Between the Lines, Gridiron Intel, a whole bunch of other shows. Check them all out. They're all awesome. Michael, especially on the Wheelhouse on Sunday mornings, get your pre-football fix before football.
Go Zanker Spankers in fantasy football, baby. All my teams made the playoffs. Send it.
For the bragging Zanker and the lose bad, good win.
I changed my team name from Watson Did Nothing Wrong to Rock Out with Your Brock Out.
He's
and
got Brock.
my logo
Purdy,
is
if you
now
didn't know.
Brock from Pokemon with the frying pan on his head. It's wonderful.
All right, Pokemon talk means we're going.
Yeah. I'm Nick Archuleta. This has been
Pokemon
Uncensored.
Talk.
Until next time.
Stay frosty.